Grow Great is a city government leadership podcast with Lisa Norris and me, Randy Cantrell. Each week we share insights, experiences, and wisdom to help you and your leadership grow great. Our website is growgreat.com. When I stepped away from the C-suite and started doing, it was consulting. It was roll your sleeves up, get your hands dirty kind of consulting stuff. And it was largely, well, it wasn't largely, it was all business. And much of it I would describe as small business. I define small business, okay, is it under 50 million a year? Not mom and pop, but still good sized business. And invariably, especially younger folks, and I'm not blaming younger people, but we just tend to want to reverse engineer. Mm-hmm. As we're young, we're looking for the easy button. We want to find, I don't want to go through the slog that you went through to get to where I want to get to. Mm-hmm. And invariably, young entrepreneurs especially would bring up some extraordinarily successful, wealthy individual, and they would use them to illustrate what they were pursuing. It could sound something like this. Well, Mark Cuban, he's got multiple streams of income, and he's into this and he's into that, and so I'm trying to emulate that. And over the course of conversation about it, you realize that these are people that they see the tip of the iceberg. We've all seen that graphic where there's, so much of the iceberg is above the waterline, but the vast majority of it is underneath the ocean, and you can't see it. It's not visible from the top, from the surface. And I've just found that life is like that. As we're searching for easy, we come into somebody like Mark Cuban, we come into this chapter of their life, a multi-billionaire, mm-hmm. and we're like, well, that's the path. That's the path to success. Never realizing the backstory and those chapters where he was living in a house with a multitude of other guys and sleeping on the floor and eating ramen noodles and, depriving himself because he was just grinding. And I think about this often because we love to reverse engineer. I love to reverse engineer. I've just found that people don't reverse engineer and they don't go back far enough. We only want to look at this chapter. So if you were to look at Lisa's life or you were to look at my life today, this chapter, Lisa's in her 50s. I'm in my 60s, and I'm closer to 70 than 60. There were a whole lot of chapters that got written to get to this point in life. Fair?
Fair. Absolutely fair. And all the chapters are not great.
No. Many of the chapters are downright ugly, and
we just wanted to turn the page and it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah. You would not want to write that chapter if you had to, but sadly you're going to have to because life is just going to be that way.
That's right.
Nobody has, in business, there's this proverbial hockey stick growth. A hockey stick, the curve just goes sharply from the blade, goes almost straight up, not quite. And we want that kind of growth in our career. We want the trajectory to just be straight up. It's just not that way. We have ups, we have downs, we have mountains, we have peaks, and we have valleys that we have to traverse. And so that searching for easy, I just want to be a voice of encouragement. I don't know, Lisa, exactly where I want to go with this other than to not try to emulate this moment in time, but to know that there's a price that had to be paid, and what looks easy was not.
Right.
My favorite quote is still, everything is hard until it's easy, because it just is. I could get on a bike. I've got one in my garage. I haven't been on this thing in forever. I haven't ridden a bike in a long, long time. I could get on that bike and I can ride the bike because I learned. Now, I don't remember what the learning process was, kind of, sort of, and I don't remember having training wheels, but I remember an adult, you know, holding the seat while I'm trying to, well, man, life, just holding the handlebars and trying to steer and trying to pedal all at the same time. I mean, are you kidding me? You might as well ask me to fly to the moon. But now, don't even think about it. Typing. I took typing in 7th grade. Learned to type.
Me too.
I'm a really
Me
good
too.
I'm a really good touch typist, and I can type fast and accurate. I don't even think about where the keys are. You know, I learned on an old manual Olympus that, you know, the action, you had to
punch
press
button.
you had to press the key so stinking hard. I mean, just your finger strength had to be, you know, karate kind of conditioning. I don't think about where the symbol, I don't think about where anything
No, I just
is.
look straight ahead and type. I
Yeah.
even know the backspace key. Boy, I got that one down.
Yeah. Yeah. And delete. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. But you could watch me type today. I could watch you type today, and nobody saw us when we were in 7th grade trying to figure this out. You know, learning to drive. I mean, pick anything that we did not know how to do, and now we know how to
Leadership.
do. Yeah.
Leadership. Well, I didn't know how
Yeah.
to do it when I was 24 and they asked me to be a supervisor coming out of college. I didn't
That's right.
know how to do that. And then I had somebody that was an alcoholic that I had to fire on week 2.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know how
welcome to the show.
I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. Now, I mean, it sounded easy. You know?
Yeah. I think
But you
my
don't know till
advice,
you live through the life
That's right.
experiences.
I think my advice that I would really want to get across, especially to young and or aspiring leaders, is it's hard. It's hard. It was hard for all of us. It's going to be hard. Don't be discouraged with it being hard, and don't think, well, it shouldn't be this hard. I've told this story too many times of a young bride who came to me in the first year of marriage and made a comment that has just forever rung in my ears. You know, well, we love each other, and it just shouldn't be this hard. And I said, well, what makes you think it shouldn't be this hard? And she went on about, you know, well, love and blah, blah. And I'm like, it's hard. It's going to be hard. It's not a question if it's hard. It's a question, is it worth it? If it's worth it to you, then, you know, then you put in the work. And I would say the same thing applies here. To be an effective leader and to have a positive impact on other people and know that you are helping them elevate their performance at work, which, by the way, will translate into probably other areas of their life. May not, but it highly probable that it will have a positive impact, could, on their life. You're not living their life for them. They may make immoral decisions that can derail that. I have seen people who were superior at work and they were crummy husbands.
Mm-hmm.
They were crummy fathers. It can happen. But hopefully, you know, we can approach our lives a little bit more holistic than that, and we can be good humans and good people and good and effective leaders. And you can do that by putting in the hard work. There's a price that has to be paid for it. And I don't think Lisa and I have spent too much time, not enough time, talking about the price tag and whatever that may look like for you. I'll sum it up in one word: sacrifice. It is going to require sacrifice.
Absolutely. It is. I remember when I was going through challenges in my career here in the recent 5 years, when I was in the HR department at the time, now in the city manager's office in recent months. But back then, when Randy and I first met, was going through, this was COVID. We were having a crisis in HR. There's a hiring challenge for everybody. Families are in crisis because of mental health with COVID and deaths in their family and financial strain from people in their families losing jobs, being laid off. There was all this, the perfect storm accumulation of things in life. And when we talk about it's hard, you know, everything is hard until it's easy. And you talk about sacrifice. I think the biggest thing that stands out for me, Randy, like you said, is first, our focus on others as leaders, going back to that premise, one. And secondly, being kind. The sacrifice as leadership is knowing and being aware of what your team needs and leading through that even during difficult times, because your strength and your fortitude and your perseverance will show if it's done well and right, and it's a service to others, a focus on others. You have to lead well through the storms, because that's where your character as a leader shines brightest, or that's where you will fall the hardest if you don't do that well, because that's what unfortunately people remember. They're going to remember if you turned on them, if you yelled at them, if you became a dominant, destructive leader versus an encouraging leader that's showing strength and weathering the storm well, and knowing that you've got the team and you're coming up from behind and leading them forward. But secondly, besides the sacrifice and the leadership and the focus on others, you have to be kind. When you talk about these chapters in the book, you have no idea what everybody else is going through. Right now, you know what you're going through, but be aware, you don't know what somebody walked in the door with that's making their day hard. It is not easy. You don't know if if they're going through a horrible chapter in their life. And like I said earlier, they can't get the page turned. It's just, the pages are ripping, the pages are just the words, and they're just accumulating. I mean, you think about life. That's where I was a couple of years ago. It was just like, man, I'm down half staff. I can't keep people. I can't find people. Am I doing a good job as a leader? And you have to find strength in that hardness, because the hard times are when we grow the most. And what an opportunity, we've talked in a previous show about seeing everything as perspective, an opportunity versus a threat. What a great opportunity if you look at, what can I do now for my team? In this moment, with this new challenge, what can I do to lead them well? And that's what you have to focus on to get through the hard times. Lastly, my point would be, once you're leading them in the hard times yourself as a leader, focusing on them and helping them weather the storm in whatever they're going through, knowing what their storms are, and that encouragement, that focus, and serving as a mentor and coach to them during those times, and not judging. When people are going through hard times, what I found in most of my career, 80% or better, probably closer to 90%, is people judge you for what's happening. They don't seek understanding. They don't seek the knowledge to understand. They don't ask questions. They just see you're faltering and you need to fix it. They just tell you, you need to do this better. You are not doing this well. What I'm seeing is, and you need to get it together, rather than saying, hey, you seem to be struggling. Can I help? What's going on? Well, I'm, this and this in life and whatever. And they don't ask questions. So they just get it together, buckle up,
Yeah.
Put your big girl panties on. We've heard everything that people will say to you, which doesn't help at all. All that does is add stress. It just doesn't serve them well in my findings.
Yeah. When it comes to, as we look at stuff, and as we try, even if you try to, pick anybody you want to pick that you want to try to emulate. There's horror stories and there's a rocky road that got them there. Not saying all of it, but some. And so I guess I don't want people being discouraged, whatever that looks like, whether that looks like somebody going through a tough time, or it looks like you going through a learning curve. And this just, if I had a nickel for every time in the last 90 days that I've had a leader just look at me and I say, how you doing? And they're just, it's hard. It's hard. Mm-hmm. And it is hard, but it won't stay hard. Right. It will get easier as you get experience. There's this thought, and I think it's true. You may not, and it's coming from a masculine perspective. I'm a guy. That to really be a man, you have to surrender innocence. And I don't mean innocence like from sin. I mean innocence from naivete.
Mhm.
You have to sacrifice your innocence for experience. To be a real man, I believe that. That's my worldview. We as men, we sacrifice. I'm not saying women don't, but there is something innate in me as a man, as a provider, it doesn't diminish my wife's capacity to provide or be self-sufficient. So this isn't about that. So don't go off on some political tangent on me. But sacrificing that innocence for experience is hard. But man, it is so worth it. And I would liken that to whatever our leadership journey is, some of the naivete that we may have going in thinking, well, this will be a piece of cake. This is easy.
Yep.
And then experience teaches us, no, this ain't so easy. And
Yeah.
somebody looks at somebody else and says, well, man, it looked easy when they were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also an element to, I think, consider, and that is our natural aptitude, our natural abilities, and just kind of the way we are,
Mm-hmm.
our personality. I'm insistent on us. Let's fixate on being the best version of ourselves. Let's not discount. Let's not say, well, that's just who I am, and it's bad behavior. No, that's you're choosing to be a bad human. But when you look at Patrick Mahomes, for instance, so has won 2 Super Bowls. They're going to try to win their 3rd in a row, which has never been done. A football in the hands of Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. The guy's making north of $40 million a year. I'm probably grossly underestimating that. I'm guessing. Top quarterbacks are making about $40 million bucks a year, and he's on top of the top. Put a football in my hands, and you know what that's worth? I don't know. Whatever the price of a football is, that's what it's worth. That's the return on investment, because I'm not a world-class quarterback. I don't know how to spin a ball. So there is that. And then there's timing. I go back to Mark Cuban. There was a recent article here in the Dallas Press where Mark Cuban made a comment about the difference between him being a millionaire and a billionaire is luck.
Mm-hmm.
Now, smart guy, but I'll tell you straight up, the one skill that the guy's got, and he's got it in spades that not everybody's got, the dude knows how to sell. He knows how to sell. And if you're starting a business and you don't know how to sell, good luck to you.
That's right.
I mean, I don't care how good you are at whatever the craft is. If you don't know how to sell and you don't know how to get a customer, good luck. Just good luck. It's going to be hard. So selling was not as hard for Mark Cuban as it is for the average bear.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that element of it. Just a whole lot of factors go into it. I just want our audience, especially, as I said, for the aspiring leader, for the leaders that want to grow and they want to get better, you're going to have to put in some work. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're going to have to dedicate yourself to it. It's going to be so, so worth it, because you're going to have so many people who are going to be impacted by your leadership that otherwise they would not. I have referred to this gentleman who coached me for all of 2 minutes when I was 16 years old, Don Stoffel, and I've referred to it as a Don Stoffel moment. I need to find out. I hope Don's still alive. I need to find Don.
And tell him the story that's made an impact.
But I've told this story so many times, and it was a Don Stoffel moment. You can go find it in past episodes. I'm not going to rehearse it. But it was this moment in time. And it wasn't a particularly bright moment for me. I was being corrected. A leader was correcting me. I don't know how difficult this was for Don, but I'll put it this way: it was difficult enough that he took the time to do it. He didn't have to do it.
Right.
So he did that. He served me. It had an impact on me, and that was 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I've told the story that I hope impacts somebody else along the way. Nothing about any of that was easy.
That's right.
It was all hard, but it was all, it was priceless. It was just priceless.
it's interesting because there's so many quotes on this, but it comes down to hard. You've got to have perseverance. You've got to, I call it weathering the storm. You've got to weather the storm well. You've got to lead your troops well. As you were talking, I was looking online, and there was a quote that immediately, I just typed in perseverance out of curiosity. And it says, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Keep going.
Don't just stop, don't stop. Weather the storm. Perseverance trumps all things.
Yeah. Well, the modern word is grit.
Yes.
You need grit.
That's right.
There's even a great book. I think it's Angela Duckworth. I'm not sure. Called Grit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We need grit.
You do have great books. I've read a couple that you've given me that have shared perspective.
Well, I would also say this, because I meant to say it earlier, but there's also this wall that the universe puts up to keep the ne'er-do-wells out. I mean, there's this price tag that success just requires. And if you're not willing to pay the price, then success says, nah, I'm not coming to you. Right? I mean, it's just the way the world works.
That's right.
There's this funnel, and we're all fighting our way through this funnel, and sometimes the funnel gets people and it stops people. And I have found through experience, mostly, not always, but mostly, it stops the right people.
Yep.
The brick wall that opposes people, the people that don't have the grit to walk through the wall, run through the wall, tear the wall down, find a way around it or over it, they don't deserve it. I mean, that may be a hard way to look at it, but I have just found that that's true.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, as we talk about the grit and perseverance, it's in leadership specifically, not only do you grow the most, but man, the impact, we talk about impact and influence in leadership, the impact seeing that happen can have on a team cannot be replaced. I have found the most significant growth, not only for me, but in my team, has been through the genuine moments of sharing with them, the wisdom, Randy, and we are going to get through this. Have faith in my ability and in your abilities in this moment, because together we're stronger, and let's weather this well. Let's be it. And I always try to focus from an HR perspective. Now, as I have teams of directors, and as things are hard, it's weathering this together, right? Of you can do this. What do we need to think about? How are you going to lead your team? I always go back to, how are you going to lead your team through this? How are you going to help them get through this moment so that they aren't focusing on where they're at alone, but the example they're setting for their teams in that perseverance that is needed, and it needs to be evidenced.
Thanks for watching and listening to Grow Great, a city government leadership podcast. For Lisa Norris, I'm Randy Cantrell. Be well, do good, grow great. The website is growgreat.com.